All right, so everybody should be joined by now. So thank y'all so much again for joining us this evening, and welcome to our Tiger Family Talks. If this is your first Tiger Family Talks, you're going to get lots of great information and content tonight. We're so excited for you to join us. And if you have participated in one of these in the past, maybe you were just with us last Tuesday when we were talking about support for you now that your tiger is away, welcome back. Thank you for coming again. If you missed that session, we gave such great information. We'd love for you to check that out on our YouTube page. And we have that posted on our Facebook as well. So you can check all that great information out. We want you to join in for all of our Tiger Family Talks this semester. So we are going to dive right in. My name is Lindsay McCrory, and I am the manager of Parent and Family Programs here at LSU. I have the true pleasure of serving you. I'm 100% dedicated to our Tiger families, giving you information and resources to support your student success. We want to keep you informed, in the know, and really help guide you throughout this transition. And one of the big things that we've been hearing a lot from our Tiger families recently is, how can you support your tiger? And you know, what are they experiencing right now? What are these feelings? They're completely normal. And let's hear from some other current parents and representatives from departments on campus to help you navigate all of this. That's why we are here. So I'm going to go over just a couple of logistics on this session first. I want to say that we have the chat feature. So if you want to use the chat feature, that's a great place to introduce yourself. You can insert a quick emoji, give people a thumbs up if you really like what maybe a speaker or a panelist is sharing. And then the Q&A feature on Zoom is for people to ask questions. So that's actually where you're going to say, you know, I have this question for a specific panelist or speaker, and we will ask all those questions after our panel at the end. So you can utilize both those features on Zoom. And then on Facebook, if you have a question or you like what we're saying, you'll just use the comment feature. So on Facebook Live, let us know how you're feeling. You can put comments in, and Carly from our team will be over there helping you out over in the chat. So I see that Gina introduced herself from New York. Gina, so great to see you. It's been wonderful chatting with you throughout the semester so far. Great to see you. I am Lindsay once again. I am from Covington, Louisiana, and that is about an hour away from Baton Rouge. So if we have any North Shore families that are joining us tonight, I'd love to see that in the chat. But I'd actually love everybody at this time to go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. Let us know where you are joining us from. You can also let us know if this is, you know, your first student coming off to college, or maybe you are an experienced Tiger family, it's your Tiger a freshman, all that good stuff. So Michelle's joining us all the way from Michigan. Hey, Michelle. Jennifer from Colorado. Facebook, I want to know where you're coming from too. So Facebook, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'd love to see that. All right, we have Lafayette, we have New Orleans, San Antonio, Pearl River, Houston. We are sending you love. Tara, it's so good to see you. I love all these familiar names. Anne and Patsy, awesome to hear from y'all in Mobile. Hope you're traveling safely right now. Houston, Nolensville, where else? More Houston. This is awesome. We got Virginia, we have St. Bernard. All right, Florida. More Houston, a lot of that. Oh, I see Sam over on our Facebook Live. Hey, Sam, good to see you. This is awesome. Y'all are coming from everywhere. Mia from Austin. Hey, Mia. I was just in Austin 2 days ago, so it's a beautiful city. Sulphur, Louisiana over on Facebook Live. Corpus Christi on Facebook Live. We've got y'all coming from everywhere. So thank you for introducing yourselves. If you see someone else from your area and you want to message them on the side, please feel free to do that. I also want to point out that if you select, if you're on Zoom, the blue box at the bottom of your chat that says panelists and attendees, then everyone will be able to see your response so that you can communicate with everybody throughout this session. We're gonna go ahead and dive into our content for tonight. So we know you were joining us from all over, and you're likely joining us because you're already, you know, maybe seeing something in your tiger that you want assistance with, or you want to be prepared ahead of time. So maybe you're already getting a little bit of homesickness. Your tiger is already reaching out, calling you, saying that they want, you know, some more support and they miss home, and that is totally normal. Or you're just they haven't expressed those feelings yet, maybe, but you want to be prepared for the transition, or you suspect it might be on the horizon. Or maybe you're just looking for some extra resources that you can help point your tiger in the right direction. Whatever the case might be, and wherever you're here, you're in the right place, and we have lots of great information to share with you. And we want you to know you're not alone. We're all in this. So whatever they're feeling, they're far from alone as well. We want to make sure your tiger feels supported by the entire tiger community. And we're going to give you lots of great information and tips to help you support your tiger with this transition this evening. So we're joined by some current LSU students and some current LSU parents and families to share their perspective. We're also joined by our residential life team and our campus life. And those are just two of the campus departments that are dedicated to supporting your tiger. But we have many, many more that we can connect you with if you are interested. There's no shortage of support from the tiger community over here to help you and your tiger. So if you have a question for one of our panelists in particular, then like I mentioned earlier, go ahead and put that in the comments on our Facebook Live, or you can put that in the Q&A via Zoom. So we are going to jump right in. We're going to jump right in. I am excited to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Carly Bordelon. She is our graduate assistant for Parent and Family Programs. So a lot of you may have interacted with her, and we love getting to know you. So she is going to lead our panel.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Carly Bordelon. I'm currently a grad student at the LSU Manship. So here's to all the communication students out there. I know some of y'all have some at the Manship. So we are going to get started by introducing our panelists for this evening. We'll start with our student panelists. So first up, Naya, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Naya. I'm a senior. I'm from New Orleans, and I am going to be graduating with a bachelor's in communication disorders. And I love talking to families about LSU.
Great. Thanks, Naya. And Jenna, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey you guys, I'm Jenna. I am a junior at LSU. I'm a part of Lsu Ambassadors, NAACP, BSU. I'm very involved and I have a lot of experience on campus, outside of it, and I'm also an out-of-state student, so I'm really happy to help and inform you guys on whatever I can.
Thanks, Jenna. And we're also joined by some fabulous current LSU parents. So first off, if Susan Howard, you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Howard. My husband and I, Greg, along with our tiger, live in Boston, Massachusetts. And our daughter actually graduated in May, but loved it so much there that she's in graduate school now. Look forward to talking with you all tonight.
Yes, thank you, Susan. And then we have Sherry Anderson joining us as well. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Ms. Sherry. Oops, think you're on mute. Still can't. There you go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm getting all kinds of error messages. I'm Sherry Anderson. Our daughter is starting her second year at LSU, but she's classified as a junior. Yay, because we're out of state too. And so most definitely Mama is happy that we're going to be graduating a year early. She's an ambassador. She's in Zeta. In fact, she was just named new member for her Zeta group, which is great because bid day, finalized this weekend after much to do. And she's, very involved. She's also in student government as election chair. So she's loving it. She's in the polycommunication major in mass comm. So she's loving manship as well.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, now that we know all of our panelists for this evening, we will go ahead and get started. So our first question is going to go to Jenna. So did you experience homesickness or challenges with your college transition? And if so, how did you deal with those feelings and ultimately work through them?
Oh man, I'm from Houston, Texas. So moving to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, it was a very big change for me. I wasn't really expecting, such land and, such culture. I was very much a city girl. So I missed home so much. I miss, the liveliness. However, once I realized, the multiple activities that are on campus, the like tens, I would say we probably, what do we have 100? I'll just say 100. I think we do have like 100 plus, organizations to get involved in. You know, I've just met people wherever I could, like in the dorms, going to class, going from class, going to the bathrooms, the libraries, like networking really helped me with, being homesick because I didn't feel as alone. The more involved I got in school, I was in the Mr. and Mrs. Imani pageant, I was in FLC. The more involved I got and the more people I met, the less, I was calling my mom and crying. So the more involved, definitely, and the more you soak up the experiences, the less homesick you'll feel.
Awesome. And Naya, how did you experience homesickness or challenges with your college transition? And how did you kind of deal with those feelings as well?
My house is an hour and a half away, so I don't experience homesickness because in my head I can just drive home. But I definitely had it my freshman year because I didn't drive my freshman year. I didn't bring my car to campus. And one thing I did, I just communicated with my parents and I was open and transparent with them, always about how I felt, what's going on campus, what I'm doing. Um, and the same thing with friends as well. So like people I graduated high school with, childhood friends, I would keep up with them and we would also plan things where we could meet each other at like a common area or like somewhere in between New Orleans and Baton Rouge and do things as well. And that got me through freshman year for sure.
Awesome. Did you have any other like challenges with the transition your freshman year?
One challenge that I did have, I graduated from a small Catholic school. I graduated with only 59 other girls. So going from that to LSU was a big deal. And I was nervous, but I joined organizations and I found my people, I guess you can say. And when you do that, I think it makes campus feel much more smaller. You feel like kind of like you're at home, if that makes sense. So I would encourage freshmen to get involved, see what they like, and also remind them that it's okay if they join an organization and they don't like it. Like you're a freshman, you have ample time to join organizations and find your people. And I think people don't like to drop or leave organizations, but we're in college, it happens, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Awesome. Involvement is key, it seems. So now on to our parent panelists that are joining us. So we'll start out with Miss Susan. So did your Tiger experience homesickness or challenges with their college transition? And if so, how did they ultimately work through those feelings?
Well, as I mentioned in my introduction, we're from Boston. So being 1,500 miles away, we were very worried about homesickness. But as it turned out, she was so excited to get away and to be independent. And she didn't really yearn for home as much as it was that she definitely experienced more loneliness and boredom. And as Naya and Jenna have already spoken to, the problem is that she just wasn't engaged enough on campus. And so what was happening is she was retreating to her dorm room, and just, that loneliness and boredom kind of built up in her. Didn't make her yearn for home much more, but it did leave her feeling like she was, not a part of things, and that this hadn't gone quite the way that she expected. But for our daughter, her greatest challenge as a freshman was the fact that she had significant roommate issues. And that just did not go at all how she thought it would go. So, what we did as parents was try to support her in the fact that you don't need to be best friends with your roommate, and you don't even really need to be friends with them, but it's exactly that. You room with them and you're a mate of theirs. So trying to work that out. And we tried to encourage her to spend as little time in her dorm room as necessary, and to get out. And, we told her, hey, there are groups that walk around the lake at night, and there are all the clubs that Naya alluded to. And there's such a large community of faith around campus and everything. But the problem with telling your tiger that is that it doesn't necessarily turn it into action. So I think later on, we're going to talk more specifically about how we supported our tiger. And I can talk a little bit more about how we work through those strategies with her. But mostly it was just keeping in touch with her, doing FaceTimes with her dog to keep her grounded with that and keep her updated on news and things like that. And we set up regular times like Wednesday evenings and one day on the weekend, so that if she was going to have a problem or was having an issue, we would be able to see it firsthand sooner rather than later. So those were sort of the challenges that we faced and how we helped with the transition.
Thank you so much. And next we'll go to Sherry. So did your tiger experience homesickness as well, or any challenges with their college transition? And if so, how did they kind of work through those feelings?
Yeah, she wasn't honest with us. I will tell you, I didn't know she had had homesickness, because she started school with so many more COVID restrictions than they have now. Every time I would talk to her, it would all be, rainbows and unicorns. And then she told us when she came home and right after Laura hit, because she drove with her sorority sisters to go help out people that had been affected so badly by that storm. And she drove, halfway there, and then she could just drive on home, right? And that's when she finally let me know that she was having a hard time. She did seek out counseling, which was great, with the student health group to help her through it. She didn't have severe roommate problems, but they were roommates, and she's an only child, and she's used to having a lot of friends around. She came from a class size of like 1,000 in her grade, and only 4 of those kids went to LSU. So she didn't have a ready-built friend group when she got there, but she just wanted to spread her wings and find her way. And it took a while, but she did make good friends, and she's doing fantastic now. But had she been honest with me, I'm sure I would have just been a basket case, because I was a basket case before she left. So, but yeah, she did experience homesickness, and she and I worked together, but she did it mostly on her own to break through.
That's great to hear. And if any other parents that are joining us have similar issues, we do have a representative from Residential Life joining us as well that's going to kind of talk on that later today. So put your questions in the Q&A if you have some similar situations. We'd love to help you out. So next, we are going to go back to our LSU students. So we'll start this one with Naya. Kind of what you were talking about with the college transition, what resources on campus or off campus were most helpful with you in your transition?
Okay, so I'm trying to think. So one thing I wish I would have utilized my freshman year was the health center. I went there for medical appointments. I wish I would have utilized their mental health services. I think I was just lazy because I lived on like Blake, the east side, and it was a far walk. But looking back, I definitely should have utilized that. I think it's a very underrated program. And I think if more people went to it, like we would see like better results with people transitioning. Another one that helped me a lot was the Career Center. So I came in as a biology student, And I think my notion about biology was that, I go to med school and I make a lot of money, X, Y, and Z. And I realized I didn't want to do it for the money. I wanted to do something that I enjoyed. So they have something cool at the Olin Career Center, and they have MBTI, which is a personality test. And then there's another test that shows you like a specific code catered to you. And based on those results, it shows jobs that are basically applicable to your personality. And that's actually how I ended up being a communication disorders major. So they helped me with that too. And I was able to change my major early on before, I got too behind.
Awesome. And Jenna, did you have any other resources that you use to help with your college transition?
One thing that I can say that I did faithfully my freshman year was definitely go to the library and the student union. I think this kind of pertains to the first question as well as the second. As far as the student union, that's really just your time to do you. Like, it's always something going on there as far as like, career expos or, liveliness, or you can, go downstairs, chill, do your homework. There's food. You could take time to be by yourself. You could take time to be with your friends. It's really just, if you don't want to be too involved in the school, like if you're, Tiger is more on the shy side, I would definitely say just conquer everything you can. And a lot of, opportunities that I found out was via the library or the student union. Being in the library, I studied hard. I got a lot of work done. It was my quiet time. And then when I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I do need some human interaction. Maybe it's, time to, put a smile on my face when I'm feeling down. I'll go to the student union, get some Chick-fil-A, and oh, look, upstairs is a so-and-so going on. Go up there, meeting people, boom. So definitely that.
Great. Thank you, Jenna. So for our next question, we're going to start this one with Sherry. So what did you do to help support your Tiger in their college transition? You kind of touched on this, but anything else that you and your family did to help support her?
Right. Well, we got really good at texting because I don't Snapchat, and that's not in my DNA. And you got to kind of meet your Tiger where they are. And phone calls, as much as I would love to hear from her, see her, FaceTime, that wasn't always an option for her. So I got it to the point where if I could text her, then I could hear from her and I could find out even a little bit how she was doing, and just being a point, available. I was a sounding board. My husband would always, fix anything when she was around, but just being available was something that I think helped, because being so far away, granted it's 4.5 hours. I can't imagine, Susan's situation with her daughter being, nearly 2,000, that miles away. Just staying on top of things, helping her figure things out, and letting her vent if she just needed to vent, so. And not being a hover parent, a helicopter parent. You got to let them grow and do their own thing. And it's uncomfortable for us as parents because we're used to having our kids at home, especially, like I said, she's an only. So that makes a huge difference. Once they leave the house, it is like there's been a death in the family, and she's very much alive, still kicking, doing her own thing.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Susan, did you have anything else that you and Greg did to help support Bree in her college transition?
Well, as I mentioned earlier about her roommate situation, first of all, we didn't realize that for new freshmen, the roommate situation is really much more common than you think. And so you think it's only your Tiger that's having that situation going on, but it really is more common. So we would encourage her to do things like go to her RA and, talk about the situation and everything. And she'd be like, Mom, that is so totally not cool. And, that's going to put her in the middle. And so she was very reluctant to talk to that person. But we said, just try it once, just, see how it goes. And that was useful for her. The RA wasn't able to really resolve the situation for her, so it continued on. But when that advice didn't help, we told her, connect with residential life and see what would happen. But for some reason, if our daughter can't text someone, then there isn't communication that's going to happen. I don't know what it is. She just doesn't want to get on a phone and call someone, or not know where to start in calling. So what we did as parents, and this may or may not be good advice, take it for whatever it is. What I found myself doing is just calling and navigating, like get one name, even if it's the entry name of the person. And that's what I did with Res Life, is I called and I spoke about what sort of services they might be able to provide and who would she talk to. And once we had a name and some ideas on how they might be able to help, then she took it as actual resource help. And she did that. And that's sort of how that resolved for her. And then in terms of schooling and that transition to college life, we found that it also helped her roommate situation to encourage her. I think one of the students mentioned it about going to the library. You don't have to do your homework and you don't have to do your studying in your dorm room. Get out and go to the student union and go to the library and do that. And why that hadn't occurred to her, we're not sure. But as a freshman, it was all very new, and so she didn't know. So we suggested that. We also highly endorsed, using TAs for classrooms as ways to help with study if there was concerns about an upcoming quiz or test or thing like that. And also study groups that would form in class, because that would help with meeting new people as well as helping her with her studies. And then also, there's so many resources at the library, like our daughter took great advantage of the writing lab and things like that. So again, as a parent, you can suggest all these things, but if you can go one step further and at least give them an entree in how to go about doing that, then that might make the next step easier for them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Naya, did your parents or family do anything to help support you with the college transition?
So I was actually a little stubborn, and I didn't like my parents to come and see me. I'm an only child, so coming to college and then coming from a small school was kind of like my freedom. But when I did have problems, I would always just call my mom. And like she said, my mom would just suggest resources, suggest that I make friends via study groups. And that's basically what the gist of my freshman year was, to be honest. That's it for me.
Thank you. I know moms are always a call away, huh? Jenna, did your parents or family do anything to help support you with the college transition your freshman year and that homesickness you were kind of feeling? Okay, we might have lost Jenna, so we'll move on to that. Hi, Jenna, you there?
I can't start my video.
Oh, interesting. Okay, you should be able to do it now. Perfect. So you heard my question, just what did your parents or family do to kind of help you with the transition?
My mom is very backwards. Like, I think her tactic was, because I'm very much a person of keep it in, push through and see what happens. And my mom knows that I don't, go to my mom every time I'm feeling sad, because I don't want to like burden her, especially I don't want to worry her because I'm too far away. But she knows that. So I think she just waited on me. And that's like the more she didn't press on me and, ask me this and like hover over me, the more I felt the need to vent to her, like it's not easy for me to like put my words together as far as like my feelings and like, put them out to people all the time. So definitely my mom supported me by not hovering over me and, just staying on the phone with me, even though don't want to say anything. She knows. So I think that's the most that helped me my freshman year.
Awesome. That's great. Okay. And Jenna, we're going to start.
Oh, wait, I want to tag on to Jenna because as a mom, that is hard. I mean, I give kudos to your mother, but that is very similar to my situation with my tiger, is that she keeps it in, she pushes through, and then I don't even know when she needs me because she's not forthcoming and letting me know that she's struggling. So it is a battle when you're used to having, control and, being able to be involved and you see their face every day and then you don't. It's hard to just, sit tight and wait for the tiger and you got to find a way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I know it is a transition for all of us, family members, siblings, students at LSU. So I know it takes some time. So Jenna, we'll come back to this one to you again. So how long did it take you to kind of feel adjusted and more comfortable at LSU?
These are just awesome questions because it's like, I just feel so old now. So it's like, these questions are really bringing me back to, the welcome week, freshman Jenna days. But it took me, okay, this is kind of a tough question because, sophomore year was, our COVID year. So there was literally nothing to do but be online, sit in your bed and eat hot chips and watch Netflix all day. So I would definitely say either, this is a really tough question. I'm very comfortable now, obviously, smiles on my face 24/7. Freshman year, the first semester was super tough. It was super, super tough. Second semester, still, figuring out who my friends are, still trying to balance, the 50 hours a week of studying and when I need to eat. So I would actually say probably the beginning of sophomore year, I had the gist of, my study schedule. I had the gist of my eating schedule. I, had to discipline myself when I can't hang out with friends, when it's time to, bow down and study, and when it's time to, shower, self-care, take a breather. I think sophomore year around that time, I got everything figured out. I got everything comfortable. I have everything I need to do. I had the materials. I knew everywhere I needed to go, the career center, the mental health center, the student union, the library to study. So definitely sophomore year. Yes, ma'am.
Great. And Naya, what about you? How long did it kind of take you to adjust?
So academically, it probably only took me about a year. I was really on it with going to SIs, going to TAs, taking their suggestions for the class, and just overall using a planner is good too. That helped me, especially my second semester. Like I saw a difference in my GPA because I used my planner. Socially, I would say that I wasn't adjusted until maybe my sophomore year, the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. Only because freshman year, I did not join anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't go out. I didn't go out to eat with friends. I didn't go to the movies. I didn't do anything. So I think I just had to take that first step and just try. And me joining Ambassadors actually was my step forward socially.
That is awesome. And Naya mentioned SI and TA as well. So for our parents that are unfamiliar, it's supplemental instruction and like teaching assistance. So getting some academic tools there. And also, Jenna, with your homesickness, since you kind of experienced this as well, how long did it kind of take you to get kind of past your homesickness as well your first year?
I'm not even gonna front. I was So like my second semester of freshman year, I was like the first semester of freshman year, it's like you have no choice to be homesick. You're hungry, you have all these professors, you have all these homeworks, and you just want to go back, to your house, your bed, and just, relax, be with your mom, be with your dad, your siblings. But second semester, that's when oh yeah, I could go to Chick-fil-A, Subway's around the corner. Oh, I have my friends. Oh, I'm laughing on the way to class. I understand this because I'm going to tutoring. Oh, this and that. So definitely I would say second semester of my sophomore year, just because I was more familiar, I wasn't lost, I wasn't uncomfortable anymore, and I had a lot of people to help me. So
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And we'll go over to Sherry for this one as well. So how long did it take for your Tiger to kind of feel more adjusted and comfortable at LSU and kind of get over those homesickness feelings as well?
I will say it was, I mean, because obviously, she's a sophomore. Well, she's technically a sophomore now. She definitely was fine after the first couple of weeks, maybe a month and a half, maybe 6 weeks, where she was really struggling, but she did get involved. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, so obviously she went through recruitment, and that was all on Zoom last year. So that was not fun. They didn't meet anybody. They barely met their sisters. And then she, wanted to do freshman leadership council, did not get it. So, I mean, the fact that she tried and didn't make something, and then kept trying and still didn't make something until she tried and made something, that was a test of her character. I mean, I was so darn proud of her. It wasn't like everybody gets a trophy, so that's where I knew that she was starting to break out and starting to make some friends, and she felt like she had her own little network. And then we got to meet her friends, and that was icing on the cake. So I would say if you can encourage your Tigers to get involved, make friends, go to, because she would go to the library with her sisters because they would have to study. I mean, there's specific study hours. Yay, because even if all they did was go and eat Cheetos and talk to each other, they were still in an area where they were supposed to be studying, and they knew they needed to. So thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sherry. And Susan, what about you? How long did it take for you to kind of get over those feelings of homesickness and uncomfortableness the first semester?
I would say, as I've alluded to earlier, since our daughter had a roommate situation and things were fairly acute for her for the first semester. So that was a very difficult semester. And then once that got resolved for her, I would say the next semester she began to balance, as Jenna was talking about, between the amount of academic work she had to do and groups and things like that. And our daughter did something different than others, in that she took an actual student job on campus. And that really helped. It happened to be in football operations, which, gave her a lot of opportunity for, enjoying the campus life and that sort of thing. So, sorry, I have my dog up here in my face. But anyway, so the student job helped a lot. And I would say that what we saw was after the end of freshman year, she really was starting to settle down and, fit in and feel more comfortable, and definitely feeling like she had found not only her faith community, but also her community, and as Naya said, her people within campus. So I think she would say the end of her freshman year. And then she was able to come home and, enjoy all of that. And we were a very close family. But as I said, for some reason, she didn't have the homesickness as much as just the loneliness of not enough to fill her time. And then the other thing that I would say, in addition to that, was that for me as a parent, it probably took till the end of sophomore year for we as parents to feel like, okay, this is really stuck. this is what she's going to do. She's going to be successful academically. She's got her friends. She's got, things that she belongs to. And she really now, when we talk to her at this point, sophomore year, we thought she loves what she's doing and she feels solid there. So she would say after the end of freshman year, I think as a parent, we would say the end of sophomore year. Go Tigers.
I love it. Go Tigers. And also Bree was pretty involved at the UREC. Can you kind of share how the UREC kind of helped her with that transition?
Oh, thank you for mentioning that. That is very important. She had always been very athletically inclined and was missing that. She did join like a flag football club or something, and it wasn't competitive enough for her. So we said, well, check out UREC. And sure enough, once she got to UREC, there was no end of both competitive people there, even just running the track, or people who, she could see their workouts and do things like that. And once she enjoyed being involved with them and realizing how much there was to do there, it was another way for her to fill empty time or to run off energy. She got into kickboxing to deal with her roommate situation. So, there's a lot at UREC to do. And if you can encourage them, if they have any interest whatsoever, and there's every level of student ability going on at the UREC. So that is something that really helped pull her through as well. Thank you for remembering that, Carly.
That is awesome. Yes, there's definitely something for everybody. Just might take a little bit of time to find out where they belong and where they're going to feel most comfortable. So thank you so much to our student and parent panelists for being so open and honest about your Tigers experience or your experience at LSU. We know that some of the most helpful advice can come from other students and current family members as well who have been in your shoes. So I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsay now as she tells you a little bit about who we're going to meet this evening from LSU.
Thank you so much, Carly, and thank you to our panelists again. So as we mentioned, you are supported by the entire campus community, and I wanted to highlight a couple of our campus departments that your Tigers are really interacting with right now, and that will really help them with this transition. So first, I want to feature residential life. So for our students living on campus, this is great for you to hear from. We are joined by Kate, she's the Associate Director for Residential Operations, and she's going to share some more guidance for first-year students, especially our on-campus residents.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. So there's been such a lot of really great information from our panelists and some really good questions too. I just, kind of want to start by echoing some of the sentiments that have already been stated, right? Like a lot of these issues, your student certainly isn't the only one to be dealing with, living with someone's weird sometimes and awkward, right? I'm married to my roommate and we still have issues that we have to work out. And so I think, understanding that we have a few different resources I kind of want to mention that I think there's been quite a few questions about. In our system, it's called Room Pack, is how we kind of manage students' communication when they're in the dorms and in their rooms. There's a roommate agreement that they're all prompted to fill out with their roommate that kind of will ask some of those like questions. And their RA should be following up with them to get those completed by the end of the month, really. Because sometimes they just haven't even sat down to have the question about like, well, what time do you like to go to sleep? Or, do you eat breakfast and do you like to cook it in the room? Or, things like that, right? Some of those things that typically we see pop up as some conflict is in schedules and guests and like what people's comfort level is with that. So the roommate agreement is a really great tool to refer your Tigers back to like it has set questions in there that they can kind of go through. And even if they just want to embrace the awkward of like, all right, we got to fill this out and kind of go through these questions, should help them at least to have an initial dialogue. There's been a lot of really great, following back up with the RA. It is their job, and their student leaders. They've been, and a lot of our RAs are RAs because they had a great person that helped them get connected, or they had a really great time, in the dorms last year, or whatever year, they were in there as a first year student, and they want to pay that forward to other students. So they're wanting to talk to your students. They're also part of, what their, curriculum is that they have to, they have like 3 intentional conversations with every resident. And so they're probably most likely trying to find your student anyways to talk to them to see how they're doing. So it would make their jobs even easier if your student's reaching out, especially if they're having issues or want to be connected to different organizations. encouraged to, get involved with those SIs or pieces, to really take advantage of everything that LSU has to offer for you to be successful. There's been a couple questions in the chat too about, well, who do I start with? So if you go to our website, if you just like Google LSU housing, it should take you to our website. And if you go to the specific dorm or community that your student is in, at the very bottom or over to the right, it should have who the, we have a full-time master's level staff member for each of our buildings, as well as a graduate staff member, in addition to those student staffs, the student leaders that are on every floor. And so those are great first initial folks to check in with. They'll help tag team with you to go and knock on the door just ever so genuinely and randomly without having to spill the beans that you called concerned, to kind of help, double up that effort of checking in on your student. Hey, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Maybe you might, be having some roommate issues. They don't have to say mom called, or whatever. They can kind of help do that little sneaky check-in for you. But another piece, I'm from Chicago initially, and I've lived in many states working in different institutions and colleges, and even I still get homesick every now and then. And so I think it's a helpful kind of thing if you think about it somewhat a little bit like grief in a way, because you're experiencing this transition, you're having to let go of something else. And so I think just being able to figure out when that wave's going to hit differently, especially if there's certain holidays or celebrations that are important to your family, or your group that y'all celebrate, that might hit a little bit different than a random week or something like that. And so it does come in waves here and there for students. And so I think you just check in, seeing how they're doing. There's been some really great tips in the past of asking your students about their friends, right? So who are you meeting, and kind of putting maybe some of the emphasis of that conversation on those friends, because we know if they get connected to at least a handful of folks, I want to say 5, I think is the magic number of if you're connected to 5 people, you're more likely to be successful and stay and engage. And so we know they trust you as their number one resource. So we'd love to help tag team on some of those pieces, to help them, get connected, find that success, and kind of work through some of that. There's tons of huge signature programs coming up in the fall semester. In every community on campus, they do one big signature event. And so those are great ways to get your students starting to be connected. I know Jacob's going to talk about great organizations. There's community council within the buildings. There's desk assistant positions. If you just want to sit at your front desk, make some money, do your homework, and meet people in your dorm, it's a great on-campus student job that allows you to be pretty flexible and do your homework while you're at work, and while you're still getting to meet some folks. And so I think there's, I don't want to ramble on too long, but hopefully that kind of gave some insight or into kind of what the residential life side of thing is, but there's always things happening. We really want to make it a home away from home for your Tigers. And I know we'll kind of get into more Q&A a little bit later. So.
Thank you so much, Kate. You're right. We really do want to make this their home away from home, and Residential Life does an awesome job of helping create that campus community for our Tigers. So thank you for sharing all those helpful resources. I also want to feature, as you mentioned, Jacob. Jacob Rumfield is our Associate Dean of Students, and he is also the Director of Campus Life. And so Jacob is an awesome resource and is going to talk about involvement. That's a huge piece for our Tigers, and that's really going to help them get even more acclimated to campus. Jacob?
Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you everyone for hosting me today. I'm going to keep my camera off because I'm feeling a little under the weather, but I'm going to show you some great visuals of resources and tools that we have to offer you as family members for your Tiger, so to encourage them to use during their time here at LSU. And the resource that is available 24/7 for your Tiger to get involved is Tigerlink. All right, and I believe that you all can see my screen.
We can see it.
Okay, Lindsay, thank you for the confirmation. So Tigerlink is a great way to get connected to all of our organizations on campus. Jenna, you ventured that we might have had 100 organizations on campus. We're closing in on 450. And so I'll have these links for you all a little bit later, but lsu.edu/Tigerlink. And students can log in and see all the different organizations that might pertain to their major, to their minor, to a religious or spiritual affiliation, to a sport club, as Susan was talking about for her Tiger, and anything that they may be interested in. We have that opportunity to host a student organization here on campus. So I am not logged into the system. So this is the public side of things. But you'll see that you can find what groups are here on campus by clicking through, and it's not going to show a lot of information because we are not currently logged in, not showing the student side of things. But you can see here that nearly 450 organizations in total, when you take out a few university departments like Kate and Residential Life and Education that are connected with our students and our own staff, and just lots of opportunities for your students to click through, go to a website, learn a little bit more about what they offer the campus community and exciting things that they're offering the campus. This is the way that Naya talked about finding your people. So Formula SAE is a fantastic organization that every year they build a race car from scratch and compete against other universities. Pleased to hear this afternoon from one of the officers for Formula SAE Tiger Racing that they had 90 new members show up for their meeting last night. It was their first meeting of the fall semester, and they were blown away by the response that they got by simply putting out the word that there's this neat organization that builds cars from scratch and races them competitively. And again, Susan talked about the wonderful sport clubs that we have available through University of Recreation. Some of them are a little quirky, like our Quidditch Club, who has been around for about 12 years and competes not only regionally and nationally, but internationally. So beyond our sport clubs, there are intramural leagues, and there are other opportunities for students to get together with groups. My son, who was a student here at LSU and graduated last December, if I wanted to know where to find him most weeknights when he was not in class, he was over on the basketball courts playing pickup basketball in the UREC facility. We have other organizations that appeal to specific professional interest or future goals, like our small and exotic animal club that's part of the vet school. Our National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, the chapter that's here at LSU. And our Student Philanthropy Council, who takes into consideration ways that students can fall in love with their university and seek to give back over the course of their lifetime. We want every student to not only find their people, but to really feel like this is their community and this will be part of their ongoing relationships as they go forward. A couple of speakers have already talked about the great resource that's part of the Career Center and finding your place in your career. We want people to fall in love with LSU for a lifetime. In our department in campus life, we are also the home for Student Activities Board. So this is that traditional activities board that host major events on campus, as well as Volunteer LSU. And here we are in the midst of experiencing a tropical storm. And Volunteer LSU was born out of the student volunteer efforts that came out of Hurricanes Katrina and Rita in 2005. So for the last 16 years, students have been a part of working with hurricane recovery, working in local schools, traveling regionally to learn more about other communities and ways that they can serve there. And as Jenna talked about a little bit earlier, some of the ways that you can overcome homesickness is to really feel like you are committing and serving the community that you're part of now. So we certainly encourage students to become active volunteers in the Baton Rouge community and the local area. One of the other resources that we have on our Campus Life website is 101 things that students can do. And most of these are at no cost to them. A couple of speakers have already mentioned just getting out and enjoying the beautiful campus environment and going on that walk, run, or ride around the university lakes. Exploring the natural beauty. Jenna talked about that shift that she felt from coming from Houston and being someone who lived in the city all of her life, and then you have this picturesque, beautiful environment that you can explore that really is different than Houston itself. So lots of opportunities for your students to explore campus, but also their Baton Rouge community. We want them to feel like they have found a home here in Baton Rouge and in South Louisiana. And if your students aren't going to necessarily go through this and check off the box for every single one of these items, we'd encourage you all as family members to go through and make some suggestions, because you know your Tigers and what they are interested in. And perhaps there's something that they're looking for in their college experience, and it's just right down the road in Baton Rouge. or it's just a click away here on this list. Few programs, Kate mentioned some of our big programs that are coming up. Our involvement fair was postponed by Hurricane Ida, but it is coming back next Thursday, September the 23rd from 11 to 1 out on Tower Drive, right outside the Union that Jenna suggested you all go and hang out at when you were a student. So come and see our organizations up close and personal and opportunities to get connected beyond the 24/7 resource of Tigerlink, but human to human, face to face, that human interaction that she also spoke about. And then one of our best opportunities to feel like you're part of the community and meeting others and celebrating Tiger Spirit is Fall Fest. And that will be in just a couple short weeks, October 1st. And this is our traditional pep rally before the first home SEC football game. And it'll be the day before the Mississippi State game, I believe, if I don't have my years mixed up. But come out to the parade ground between 11 and 2. There's lots of student talent on stage. So if your Tiger loves performing, come and see us. This main webpage has links to auditions. We are still auditioning students to be on stage. Opportunities to celebrate with Tiger Band, with Mike the Tiger, and lots of face-to-face opportunities to get connected here on campus. Just a couple short weeks right after Fall Fest is Homecoming. And this is where we not only celebrate those community members who come back for that football game that will play against the University of Florida, but we, again, want students to fall in love with LSU and feel like this is home for them. So for an entire week, we have programs that they can enjoy to really help them dig into the spirit of homecoming while they're still students here. And then I want to recognize both Naya and Jenna for being LSU ambassadors. And they're some of our most spirited and enthusiastic and wonderfully resourced, amazing human beings and student leaders here on campus. They've been around for 30 years. And one of the programs that they started last year alongside Campus Life, our department, was called Tiger Streaks. And this is an opportunity for your students to get connected with other students who have similar interests. So there was a coffee Tiger Streaks, and that streak went and tried out different coffee shops around town at least once a week for several weeks. And there were streaks that were interested in outdoor activities. So they went canoeing and they went hiking. So if your student has an interest that they haven't yet found or connected with somebody else about here at the university, our ambassadors getting geared up to do that activity again this October. I don't have a flyer just yet to show you, but they are getting ready. And perhaps Naya and Jenna can tell you a little bit more about that as well. So that is a little overview of the activities that we have coming up, as well as the resource that we have throughout the year 24/7. And here is a good recap of those activities. So I'll pause it here on this slide for folks to either take a screenshot or a snapshot. I know it's streaming, but want you to have that information right at your fingertips. So when your students say there's nothing to do on campus or I can't find where to go on campus, that you have that resource at your fingertips too. Again, I'm Jacob Brumfield with Campus Life. Here is our contact information. We are on the 3rd floor of the Student Union. We love being in the Student Union because it is one of the hubs of activities that we have here on campus. And there's a photograph of something that really amazed a lot of students and amazed all of us old folks here at the university. During Welcome Week, we were able to hit a high point at the end of the week by hosting the first ever carnival outside Tiger Stadium. So if your students enjoyed Welcome Week, many of the folks who were here on the panel were involved in those activities. And we wanted to wow them. We wanted to welcome them. We wanted to engage their imagination, engage their curiosity, because as Kate said earlier, it is about building a community, building a sense that we are here together today, and what more can we do to celebrate life with each other.
Thank you so much, Jacob. That was such wonderful, tangible content that you shared. And so what we're going to do is we're going to send a follow-up email to all of you with a recording from this session. We're going to send it to all first-year families, but also with some helpful resources that all of our panelists and our speakers shared tonight, so that you have a little recap. So it's in your back pocket. If your Tiger reaches out with any questions, you know what resources to connect them with. So at this time, I know we're a little over time, but I want to make sure we get the opportunity to answer your questions. So we see a few in the Q&A already. If you want to put your questions on Facebook Live in the comment section, we'll address those. And then also, if you have any questions that you haven't submitted yet via Zoom, go ahead and put those in the Q&A. So I know a couple of questions that we got are in reference to the academics and the academic transition for your Tiger. So I first want to say that our next Tiger Family Talk session will be all about sharing the academic resources for your student. That's going to be held on Tuesday, September 28th, so in 2 weeks. So please join us for that one. We will be featuring the LSU Center for Academic Success. But I did want to point out, I think Gina shared with us all the way from New York in the chat that she was curious. Her Tiger had a great time after the game, is riding that high of a Tiger win from Tiger Stadium. And then now she's into the thick of it with all of the tests and all of the exams and everything ramping up with her class. So I want to ask our student panelists, or maybe our parent panelists, how did you juggle that, and what resources maybe did you utilize that we can point out to our Tiger families joining us tonight? And anybody can answer.
Well, I was going to let the students answer because obviously they're the ones that are studying, right? But I do think that the planner that Naya spoke about, my daughter, she, gets one every year. She makes sure she fills it out. She writes down all of the stuff from the syllabus. She tries to stay on track with it. She has a JOB, so, and it's not on campus this time. She started with enrollment on campus last spring, and then got a job with a local firm. But staying on top of things with the planner really helped her.
That's awesome, Shara. You're absolutely right. Students, if y'all want to chime in, if you have anything, Naya or Jenna, to share. But I also want to point out that we're going to go over time management, because that's always a challenge for our students and something that we really like to focus on when we feature our Center for Academic Success. They're going to talk about resources available via academic coaching. It's all free, and it really helps students set their schedule and feel like they can manage it all. They actually will block out their day and show, okay, this is when you have class time. This is when you're going to be eating. This is when you need to set outside time for sleeping, for commuting to campus, if that's something they're doing. This is when your student organizations meet. And so they help students understand that you really can fit it all in, and that it really is manageable, and they can really be successful in academics. As our students are thinking about responding to that question, we also got one from Michael Doyle asking, how do you get your freshmen to utilize the SI or TAs without losing her confidence? So anybody can help share an answer to that one. So parents, maybe, how do you encourage your Tiger to take advantage of the resources that are there? Oh, Shara, you're on mute again.
I was letting Jenna get it, because she had her camera turned on for a second.
No, because she said parents, so I'll just let the parents.
No, she said parents, because you didn't go first.
Okay. I think I'm gonna answer the SI question. Right? That was for.
Yeah, like what are the things, why should students utilize SI, and how can maybe parents help encourage their Tigers to utilize those resources?
Oh man. Okay, so LSU has this thing called HIMES, and it is a building on campus where taking takes place. And speaking from personal experience, as soon as I saw like a 48 pop up on the screen after I took a test, I was like, I want all the SI sessions. Like, I'm just gonna go to all of them. And honestly, all jokes aside, being a part of SI sessions, really taking the, hour and a half, 2 hours out, it makes such a difference. Like, it's literally 2 hours of, going over all questions, going over all notes, and asking any questions you can. So, speaking like as a Tiger, something my mom could have told me to motivate me is like, how bad do you want it? You know what I'm saying? Like, how bad do you want to succeed? Like, you want to graduate, but do you want like the awards? Do you want the medals? It's like, be the best you can be. Stream, like, reach for the dean's list, reach for all A's, like, do everything you can. And I think SI sessions are the start to it, definitely.
That's great feedback. Sherry, did you want to expand upon that or have anything to add?
I think she just hit that on the head. I mean, absolutely. Because the thing about it is all in the student's hands, and it is how bad does the student want it? Because my daughter, she also, wants dean's list, I mean, she's motivated by bad grades, and she gets her butt to the TAs or the SI sessions because she doesn't want them to stay on her permanent record. So the student has got to take control, and, kudos to you girls.
Absolutely. I think what we see sometimes is the flip side of that. So sometimes students who have always excelled academically in the classroom back in high school, have some challenges and face some issues with their college classes and that adjustment. And so I'd love to hear from any of our panelists, maybe what happened. How did the situation work when your Tiger called home for the first time, or you called home for the first time with a bad grade? And how did you work through that?
So I can go for that. I'm trying to think. It was a sociology test, sociology 2000, and I got a 66 on my test. So not too far from a C, but coming from someone that had almost a 4.0 in high school, that hurt my confidence. And I remember going to my mom and crying about it. But one thing she told me, kind of like what Jenna said, like, you have to want it. And also I want to add to it, like, just because you have one failure doesn't mean that's the print that you're going to have for your whole college career at LSU. So you're not going to, just because you failed that test doesn't mean you're going to fail all tests. You just have to put the work in and find study groups and tips that will help you.
That's great. You're right. I love that feedback from your mama.
Oh wait, I have something else. I'm sorry. One thing I wanted to add too, that I think parents like may not want to realize, or they may not know, is that sometimes like people in my age range, college age, sometimes when our parents tell us things, rather it's anything, but especially school, sometimes it goes in one ear and out the other. So I do think that you need to keep encouraging them, because if you just encourage them and then you stop, then they might not listen. But if you keep pushing and then emphasizing, like, do you want this? Because they have to want it for themselves. You can't make them. I think that would make a difference. I think that's what I wish my mom would have did.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much for sharing. Does anyone want to share from the parent perspective?
Hi. Yeah, our family took sort of a different approach than Jenna was, and Sherry was saying about, talk to them about how much do you want it and that sort of thing. For our Tiger, she graduated with a 4.2 in high school and is a perfectionist and came to college thinking it was all going to go like that as well. So for us as parents, we sort of downplayed academics for the first semester and more talked to her about, what you accomplish academically this semester is not going to overly influence the GPA that you have at the end. So don't overplay, the lower test grades that you're getting or that sort of thing. And we tried to talk to our Tiger about how it's okay to even go to the professor during office hours. And, especially with these gen ed classes, we told her, there are 100 people in that class, but if you walk through that door, during office hours and distinguish yourself as someone who wants to do better and really wants to salvage this grade, that the professor can help. So we really did push the resources like the professor and the TAs and all of the other resources that have been talked about. But we downplayed the expectations for academics that first semester, since she was still trying to find her legs with her LSU community as well as her faith community. So
that's super helpful to hear both sides, because you're right. Everybody approaches this differently. And I think that's what our families need to hear. There's no one right way to support your tiger. You've got to figure out what motivates them. As Jenna mentioned earlier, you know them best and how best to support them. And we're here to guide you along the way. If you have any questions or want us to share more information, however you can best support them, for sure. Thank y'all for sharing. I think this next question that we got via the Q&A is about, what if your tiger has some issues with their roommate? It sounds like one of our people in the Q&A is having some issues. And so, what are the options that are there? What are the best first courses of action? I'm going to direct that to Kate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I think the roommate agreement is going to be that first step, right? We want to make sure that folks have had a conversation first, because sometimes I might just not know that that's something that bothers you, right? Like if you haven't talked about it, or as we've, spoken, some of us bottle things up and, it becomes like this kind of like many paper cuts kind of thing, right? Like these little things aren't a big deal, but then we're now in week 4, and now it's come to this head where it's like this huge crisis situation. And so if you're wanting, and I think Lindsay or Carly put the link to like our staff page, so you can kind of figure out who that is. We get until we get to like date of record for the university, which is this Friday, before we start doing room changes, just so that we know who's exactly here, especially with, coming back after Hurricane Ida and wanting to make sure that folks are settled in where they need to be. And so we'll start exploring some room change options like next week. And so what I would encourage your folks to do, and I see there's another one too, like can they move to a different building? If they're having an issue like with other people in their building, they absolutely need to talk to their RA. If they can't get a hold of their RA, which most RAs have like a group me or something for the floor, then they should, email or stop by the office for their residence coordinator or their graduate residence coordinator. They have an office in the building, and chat with somebody about like, what are the options? Maybe we can like figure out what's going on. Because sometimes like maybe that person that is the point of conflict is wanting to move elsewhere, and then we don't have to move 4 other people, we can just move to one person, right? And so so that's a process, but all those room change processes or requests need to go through those managers of the building. And so we'll want to make sure that they get connected with one of our staff members in the building, and RAs will escalate that up as well, and we can kind of talk through what options, price differences. If you're moving to different buildings, there are some different price ranges, and so want to make sure that our students are having that conversation with you as well, if you're the ones paying the bill. And so it is not a surprise for you when they've moved buildings. So
that is super helpful. Thank you so much for sharing. And we'll include information about that roommate agreement and also, anything else as a follow-up in our email. So I'll connect with you, Kate. Thank you. We did get a question. Our last question in the Q&A via Zoom is just asking about Greek organizations and if there are some specific organizations on campus that may receive, priority or specialty treatment from the outside view. So I want to direct that maybe to Jacob, because you're familiar with all of our student organizations.
Absolutely, and thanks so much, Lindsay. Let me share my screen again. All right, so if the question was about seeing the breakdown of 450 groups that we have here on campus, some of them are general student organizations, some of them are affiliated with residential life, some of them are affiliated with Greek life, and then some are university departments. At this level, it just talks about who manages those on campus. So, Kate and her team will work with those 22 communities and groups that belong to residential life and education. Greek life will work with those 44. And then campus life supports well over 350. There are about 30 sport clubs that are here on campus as well. But this is a brand new system, and we haven't got all the, we're still managing how we have information show up. But really, this line is not about specialties so much as we can narrow down, for those of us who work with those students and student leaders every day, who manages what area. Some specifics that you can see on the public side is if you look at group category, there are lots of different ways that we can categorize student organizations on campus. And again, I talked about ones that are related to a student's academic or professional endeavors, organizations that are affiliated, they're religious or spiritual based, service organizations, political organizations, pre-professional military affiliated organizations. And on the student version of this site, when students are logged in, they can drill down even further. And so tags, there could be different tags on events. So if they're looking for a purely social event that is maybe an intramural pickup basketball opportunity, they can find that. If they're looking for something that's more recreational and getting out on the water, they can do that too. But if the question was about just seeing the categorization at this level, that's about our management. Really, the students spend their time looking at this level and even further detail, so they can really drill down to things that interest them.
Yeah, I think that is super helpful. Thank you for clarifying via the Tigerlink. And as I mentioned, we'll send that to all of you as a follow-up. So you will receive that in the email with more information, as well as the dates for our involvement fair next week. So thank you to everyone for all of your questions. If you have any last questions, go ahead and get those in the comments on Facebook Live or put those in the Q&A, and our team will stick around in the backside to help answer those. You can also always email our office. We are here for you. If you want more information from any of the different speakers and panelists tonight, or you want to connect with them one-on-one, please let us know. Email us at lsufamily@lsu.edu, and we would love to connect you with them. I have a few more things for wrap up. So we have some great resources on our website I want to point out. So if you go to our website, lsu.edu/family, and click on the communications tab, what we do is we put some sort of resources and additional support that you can look at on your own. So I'm going to actually feature those in just a moment and switch out to that one. So you can see, all right, so you can see on our screen when you go to lsu.edu/family, click communications, and then click webinars, it brings you to this page. And on our page, we have a list of all of the sessions. So you can see a recording from last week's session about what do I do now that my tiger's away. We will post the recording tomorrow for tonight's session. And then you can see the dates, times, all the login information for the upcoming sessions that we're hosting for Tiger Family Talks. But right here is what I want to point out with the additional resources. And so we have some additional information that we want to point out, some helpful articles. Maybe you're a reader and you want to keep diving into this and you want to talk it out. You can read these, call us, email us, whatever works for you. But I want to focus on, they have within one of those documents, just a little recap of some things that we touched on tonight and maybe some helpful just main tips to remember. So you can take a look at the screen and see those. First one, we talked about grades. And so, how to motivate your tiger to succeed academically and having that conversation about what it means and what you expect. Number two, we have about problem solving. I don't know if we got to touch base on that maybe quite enough, but I think it is a really impactful and empowering thing to help encourage your tiger when they do call and they're homesick, or, it's great to listen and be supportive, but then also empower them to help take the things into their own hands and really figure out how they're going to work through it and grow from this experience, whatever challenges they may face. And you're there to help and say, yeah, that's a great idea. But helping them work through it first and listening is a wonderful thing. We really talk a lot about parents changing their role from the caretaker to the coach and that partner. And that's all about that for number two. For number three, encourage your tiger to seek any assistance if they need it. So we talked about that. I mean, Naya said that she wished she would have used the mental health service and student health center. And, we talked about there are people here on campus that want to support your tiger, whether it be academically, mentally, socially, everybody is here. So tell them to increase their network, as Jenna mentioned, and keep reaching out to people around campus. We're here to help. Change can be exciting. Number four, this is normal. As our panelists all mentioned, it takes time to adjust. Some of them takes a semester, maybe it takes a few weeks. Some can take a whole year or more. It's all different for every student as they navigate this experience. And what I always tell my students that I interact with is, try everything, be open to anything within reason that is safe. But, doing something new can be scary, but everybody's doing the same thing. The last thing that's not on here that I also always like to touch on, and maybe I hope you've already had conversations with your student about this, is that social media can be great for connecting students. Maybe that's how your student found their roommate, or is making friends. Maybe they're on a group me and they're getting their study group together. But it can also be harmful, especially if your student comes from somewhere far away, or maybe they're looking at social media and seeing their friends who went to other colleges and they're looking like they're having the times of their life. And maybe your tiger is taking a minute longer to adjust. Social media is not always the truth, and people put maybe some of the best foot forward and they portray a different image than what's really going on. And so it may be beneficial to have a conversation with your tiger if they think, oh, my friends are having so much fun, why am I not having the same level of fun yet? It could all be a matter of perception. And so we like to remind tigers not to stick in your phones too much and maybe try to avoid social media in some aspects if they're feeling a little down at all. We have all those great resources and more on our website, so check that out for sure. As I mentioned, here are upcoming webinars. We hope you join us in 2 weeks for our next one about academic resources. We can really dive into that topic and feature our Center for Academic Success. And then we encourage you to join the Family Association. You should have received an email today, but our panelists, our parent panelists tonight are all members of our Family Association. It's a great way to get connected, plugged in, stay in the know with our office and truly have lots of great information. And so the deadline tomorrow, if you join, you'll get priority registration for Family Weekend. I hope you were all saving the date for Family Weekend, because that's the best, when you can come visit their tiger November 12th through the 14th, see them in their element, their new home away from home, and see their true transition and how this experience has been for them. It's going to be a wonderful celebration. Family Weekend, November 12th through the 14th. Finally, we do have a short survey that we'd love for you to fill out so we can keep ensuring that we are providing the best information and resources and content for you. And so you can use the QR code on the screen or check out the chat for the direct link. It will take you 2 minutes to fill out the survey. And so you can give us some feedback about this and help us explore new topics so we can keep giving you what you want and help answer those questions. And as I mentioned, we are here for you. Everyone is here for you to support your tiger. So please don't hesitate to connect with us via email, or you can call us or connect with us via social media on Facebook and Instagram. We want to ensure your tiger has an awesome experience, and this is just the beginning of a wonderful journey for them. So thank you so much again to all of our panelists. Thank you to our speakers tonight. Thank you to everyone who joined us. We really, really appreciate you. I'll stick around in the background if anybody has any last minute things, but if not, as we say, go Tigers and have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.